impact position and switch your deflectors on. It is time for another installment of Red 5 Standing By. I am one of your hosts, Jedi Master Ikum Nuos, and with me, as always, is our friend Jedi Master Johnny D.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining, and hello, Master Nuos.
Hello, my friend. This week, we will be talking about Deadpool versus Wolverine. I've seen it. Jedi Master Johnny D has seen it. I hope you've seen it, because if not, you're going to get it spoiled. Also, we will talk about San Diego Comic-Con and some of the big announcements and reveals that were made this weekend. So get ready, because we're going to get it on. Let's effing go.
Yes, effing go with another exciting episode of Red 5 Standing By. All right, Master Nuos. Yes. So start us off with, many exciting things to talk about, the movie and the Comic-Con. Yeah. So where do you want to go first?
Well, I think we should probably start off with the talking about our Deadpool and Wolverine thoughts and reactions. And from there, we'll go into some of the stuff that, it kind of leads into what's going to be happening from the stuff that was announced at San Diego Comic-Con. So I think that makes the most sense. Let's do that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because I know the big news that I've seen is, of course, it's Marvel related. You alluded to that before. So yeah, it's like MCU, right? It's an MCU themed week with the movie and the Comic-Con. So yeah, I think it makes sense starting off with the movie because I think my initial thoughts, yeah, definitely entertaining movie, great movie. But I can't really think it really set the seeds for any future MCU stuff. It was just a nice kind of like, I don't know, just usage of where it's at with the multiverse and all that stuff. But yeah, I think I remember thinking about this movie 6 months ago, thinking that they're going to sow some more seeds. But unless you saw things that I didn't see, but my initial reaction is that it was pretty self-contained. It's probably the Comic-Con is probably really showing the path forward a lot more to me from what I saw.
Yeah, my initial reaction walking out of the theater, I wouldn't say it was one of disappointment. Like, it was a great movie, and I can't recall having more fun time in the theater. But I, myself, was definitely expecting a few more seeds and roads and paths paid for how Deadpool and the X-Men characters will be introduced into the MCU, and really that's not at all what we got. It was definitely much more of like a fond farewell, a look back, a retrospect of all of the Marvel character movies that were made by Fox. And
yeah, which is cool.
I think
it was a great way to bring it all in because now they can pick and choose from that, right? But they brought it in, which I thought was really cool. And there was so many things well done by that movie. That was definitely one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Those expectations were my own, and obviously they were misguided. I think I probably would have appreciated it even more if I wasn't expecting that going in and realizing what it was. That said, there are a couple of things that I've thought about since the movie's come out that I do think are little nods to where it's going to go. But yeah, in a lot of ways, it was like, no, this is the end of it's the Fox universe, the X-Men universe. It is Earth 10005. It is 10,005, and it was more or less like a farewell swan song. Especially, we got to see a lot of characters that I know I was not expecting to see. I'm sure that's the same for most, but without getting into spoilers, there's not really much more that we can say. I'll just say spoiler free. I give it in the end about a 7.5 out of 10. For me, it's kind of ironic because I felt with the original Deadpool, at the time, I saw it, I liked it, and I thought to myself, I don't really need to see it ever again. Because the first one wasn't really an action-heavy movie. They joke about it because the movie was budgeted for $70 million, and then right before shooting, Fox cut the budget in half and only gave them $35 million. And they even reference that in the movie, and Deadpool himself says, that's the whole reason why he forgot his bag of guns in that movie, and he only had the 10 bullets and so on and so forth. But in retrospect, and to be clear, I actually did rewatch Deadpool 1 and 2 before I saw Deadpool and Wolverine. So that was the first time I had seen the original Deadpool since I saw it in the theaters upon its release. And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would have. And this movie, it's kind of the opposite. Like, I'll definitely watch this again just because the action is so well done. But as for the story itself, the story, it was okay. It was fine. It wasn't great. I don't think it didn't blow me away. It wasn't what I was expecting. I think there were some flaws. Again, though, as I mentioned, because Johnny D and I saw this together, as well as Jedi Master Cunning Ryan and Jedi Master Miltron 3000 was with us. And I did mention to him then that this movie was filmed during the writer's strike. So they were stuck with the script that they had. There was nothing that they could do about it. Obviously, some of the ADR, the dialogue could be overdubbed afterwards. But as for what was shot, what they actually had filmed, they were stuck with what they had written on the script, for better or for worse. But yeah, there's nothing else I can really add without getting into spoilers.
Yeah, I'll get before we go to spoilers, I'll give you my number. I thought it was a solid 8. I'd say I give it an 8 because I think the action was cool. I think like Ryan Reynolds, whether he's writing all the jokes or he's got people to help. I mean, him and his maybe people helping him. I mean, they're just good at just writing good, consistently good jokes. Like it's just, and they're just one after the other. I love movies that can pull that off. I think he did it for all the Deadpools. He does it well this time around. The cameos are great, and but really what really makes it the most solid 8 is Hugh Jackman. I think he was great. He just was. I just saw the first X-Men movie for the first time in a long time, like 3 weeks ago, and it was like, just how he owned that part, and how he talked about how he was nervous about coming in. Well, they show that clip in the end. I think you might have missed that part. No, it's where they show all the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, like he was nervous.
Yes, I missed that part. I had to go to the bathroom and I didn't want to miss the end credit sequence.
Yeah. So he just owned it in that movie. And this was just him just owning it again. And I just think he just gave a great performance for his part of the story. And I mean, I thought it was kind of a cool ending. I mean, it was a very similar ending, I think, to the it's the holding hands while you're channeling all this great power. So similar to the great ending of Guardians of the Galaxy, but hey, it still works. It's a good trope, and Hugh Jackman just nailed it with the whole thing. So I think he's probably the main reason why it gets a solid 8 for me. So that's that. I think we can move on to spoilers of the movie. So spoiler alert, Red 5 standing by. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Yeah, and a couple seconds here before we get into spoilers, because I just want to follow up on you. And I completely agree. Absolutely. Hugh Jackman, as good as Ryan Reynolds was, and he was great. Yeah, Hugh Jackman was phenomenal, actually. And I did truly feel like this was a different Wolverine. I mean, it's still the same guy and the same Wolverine, but one that has gone through different experiences. And I felt that he did a good job of capturing that, at least from my perspective. But all right. Well, let's not worry about spoilers anymore. Is there anything that you want to get into or that you wanted to share right away?
I thought it was cool. They brought in Cassandra. I thought she was a bit OP, overpowered. But I guess it worked. But I'm curious to see if she ever shows up again. Or maybe she was just because of wherever they were in that weird kind of limbo dimension. But I thought she was cool. I thought she was a cool villain. And of course, seeing the Human Torch was hilarious. I thought that was great, and the joke at the end was really funny with him actually saying all those lines about how much he hated Cassandra. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it was just like, it just seemed like it was like, oh, this is like another Loki episode. Cool. With Wolverine and Deadpool. So it's all TVA. Just, I'm watching Doctor Who again. So it's like, yeah, it's just like that kind of stuff. You just kind of don't think too hard of how things work. You just kind of accept it for this weird, blurring of time and dimensions and the wackiness that ensues when everything gets disrupted. I did like the concept of that thread, that there's like a thread person, and that Wolverine is that, right? Because he is so pivotal.
The anchor being.
The anchor being, yeah. I
The
thought that was
anchor.
cool because it's him as a person, but it's also him as a character. Like the character of Wolverine is just so. I mean, he was just so popular, and he, he's like it's just paying respects to the character that was created and how he's just been so uh, you know just the foundation for a lot of Marvel success and interest from various people because he's just such an interesting character. So I thought that was cool.
I love that you brought that up, Johnny D, because that's actually one of the things that I did want to talk to you about here tonight was this concept of the anchor being, because it is something that is from the Marvel comic universe, and you have read more about that than I. Now, I may be presumptuous that you remember anything about this stuff.
You have to tell me what storylines they talk about anchor beings. Yeah, I can't remember because I read so much and it's just a blur to me now because I read them too fast.
Before I get into what the anchor being is, though, and relevant to this is, and I think having Wolverine be the anchor being for that universe, that is brilliant because in so many ways, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, he literally was the anchor being for the X-Men cinematic universe, right? There was only one X-Men movie ever made that he didn't even have a cameo in, and that would have been the last one, I believe, X-Men Dark Phoenix. I think in every other single, even when they rebooted it with X-Men First Class and took it back to the 1960s, he still at the very least had cameo appearances in all of the X-Men movies going back. The X-Men First Class is the famous one where Wolverine and Magneto show up in the bar and he just looks at them and says, "Go fuck yourself." Right? Yeah. And I believe it was X-Men Apocalypse. His last appearance in an X-Men movie was the where they did the Weapon X sequence where he finally breaks free from the Weapon X, where he has no clothes on and he's got that crazy big helmet with all the wires sticking out of him and he runs out. So yeah, the idea that Hugh Jackman Wolverine is the anchor being for the X-Men universe, I thought that was brilliant. And what the anchor being is, as communicated to us in Wolverine and Deadpool, is that every universe in the every planet in the multiverse, every timeline has their own anchor being, one being that is so important to this timeline that when that person dies, it begins the end of that reality. It is told to us throughout the movie that it could take 2,000 years for that timeline to be destroyed, but once the anchor being has been destroyed, that is what starts the thread of that universe, that timeline unraveling and ceasing to be. So yeah, that was very cool. I thought that was well done. Another thing that you said that I wanted to comment on was how you said if you don't think about it too hard, it's good. And for me, that's why I give this movie a 7.5 rather than an 8 or an 8.5. Because the more I do think about it, a lot of it just I can't.
Yeah.
I can't work it out in my.
Looks like Nuance is having his controller problems, but I think that's good that he did think it out. I will ask him to break it down more when he gets back. But I'll continue with my any other thoughts I had. It was cool just to see Wolverine just do some R-rated fighting where he's just just showing how much carnage he can do with his blades. So that was cool. I mean, and him and Deadpool or Ryan Reynolds definitely did well together. They were a good combo, right? So I mean, Wolverine, Hugh Jackman was great, but I mean, Ryan Reynolds was also fantastic as well. He's just phenomenal. All right, Nuance, you're back. Yeah, so I'm not sure. So I just talked about how I liked how it was R-rated Wolverine, so you got to see him really slash people up. Just fun. Yeah,
absolutely. Even more so than Logan, right? So
yeah,
that was great. But yeah, one of the things I was having an issue with was the sling ring, and how they were able to use the sling ring to go from the void back into their time, their universe, their reality. And I commented to you afterwards that, like, well, that's not how the sling rings work. They don't allow you to travel across the multiverse. They're simply a teleporter to a different location. And I think after the movie, I mean, what was you had some
Well,
sort
I thought did Cassandra augment them with their powers to make them so they could jump dimensions, which I didn't think
okay,
was that much of a stretch.
okay, that's possible, I suppose. I didn't look, but I look at I look at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and that entire movie was predicated about the character American Chavez, whose power was that she was able to jump from reality to reality at will.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
that Doctor Strange, one of the multiverse doctors, like, he was willing to kill her to get that power. So in my head, I'm having a little hard time saying, well, Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, is not able to figure out how to use a sling ring to jump from multiverse to multiverse, but Cassandra Nova is. I mean, she is. You did say she is OP, so I suppose there are different powers that she could use to do this. Besides, I mean, Stephen Strange is just the master of mysticism.
Yeah. The only other thing
Maybe
I
it's
can think
beyond
of
his
is that
means.
was it the nature of that because there what was the universe, the dimension there? It was like a special universe, right? Is it because
Is
it's
the
not
void?
like it's the what?
It's the void. It's the end of all reality, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
where
So is it that
anything that
one
gets
is
pruned goes to
are
die.
the seams a little looser, right? Like the walls are a little less dense, and maybe that's why. I don't know. We could we,
Yeah.
we could we could we could we could talk multi-dimensional physics all day if we want to, but I think we'd have to get out chalkboards, a lot of chalkboards, and
Yeah.
we'd have to start acting like Einstein and Stephen Hawking, and
That would
that would
be
be
a whole
fun.
2-hour episode on itself, and we don't have time for that today, do we?
No, I think
No.
let's move on. So
Uh,
yeah, but I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, there's definitely there must be other things some weaknesses you would have seen in the story. I'm guessing that you might want to share.
uh, uh yeah. I'm trying to get my. I'll confess, I did not write notes, so I'm doing everything off
That's
the
all
top
good.
of my head this week.
That's all good. Like I say, I mean, I don't think the story was the main
No.
purpose of the movie.
Okay.
It was to get Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds having a good old time, and
Yes.
bringing the Fox movies in a fun way. And yeah, let's talk about like some of the cool cameos, right? Like,
Okay, well, and to associate that with talking about the weaknesses, I will say I do think one of the weaknesses would be one of the cameos, not his performance or not how he was portrayed at all in the movie. But I mean, the big surprises are that we had Chris Evans come back, but not as Captain America. He came back as Johnny Storm from his Fantastic Four movies. We had Jennifer Garner show up as Elektra.
yes, she was cool. I was very happy to see her.
Yes, she was awesome. We had Blade, as played by Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, he was great.
That was the big surprise for me. As I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
him and Ryan Reynolds did not get along, supposedly, during the filming of Blade 3.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that was the reality. Who knows how they are now, but I assume there's a lot less in the moment animosity. I'm sure
Indeed.
Wes Snipes has chilled out a bit, but yeah, I thought he did a great job. I mean, he's also the other thing I've seen him in, which I thought he was also really good in, was the I think it was the Dolomite movie.
Dolomite Is My Name.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was really good in that too. So I'm really happy that he's kind of have a good little comeback after his I don't know, he kind of disappeared and what probably I think tax evasion problems really kind of caused him some troubles.
He did some jail time.
Yeah, so but he's done a great job just evolving as an actor. I think just he's kind of, I mean, he was able to basically go toe to toe with Stallone of being like his own version of that cool kind of action type character, and like much like Stallone really is, like he's got that presence that's, I mean, just making him, I think, probably intriguing. I don't see much of Stallone's movies, but I can see enough to go, yeah, he's still pretty intriguing in his old age, right?
In the late 80s, early 90s, He was like an action star.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So
actually,
he was like Stallone. So now he's evolving like Stallone, where now he's just kind of settling into this like older kind of actor. And I like to see these guys go through that journey and just kind of just showing that presence
yeah.
on the screen and just delivering, right. And he did great in this movie.
I mean, Wesley Snipes made some great, and I'll recommend to anyone out there. I don't even know if you've seen it yourself, Johnny D, but he did a movie based on a Michael Crichton book called Rising Sun, starring Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery, and I would
Oh yeah,
highly recommend that movie to anybody. It's a
I remember the
fantastic
trailer.
movie.
Remember the trailer just looked so good. It was so stylized and intense. And
Yeah, I wish I could remember off the top of my head who actually directed it. I'm sure it was somebody who was working constantly making movies at the time. But yeah, no. So Wesley Snipes, he was good. Was he in the Coming to America sequel? I know he did the Dolomite Is My Name with Eddie Murphy when Eddie Murphy started his renaissance, and then after that he did the Coming to America sequel. And Wesley Snipes was in the original Coming to America. I'm trying to.
oh, he
I don't
was in
know.
the original Coming to America.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't see it.
Yes.
I think I saw the first 5 minutes and it just didn't grab me. And I was
Yeah.
casually I was like kind of picking away, like, oh, I'll see how this is. And then I
Yeah.
just didn't get past for the first 5 minutes. So I'm not sure. But I do know that the director of Rising Sun was Philip Kaufman, who he did the unbearable. Well, he did the unbearable likeness of being. When was Rising Sun done? Oh,
What
okay.
year is Rising Sun?
That's 93. The unbearable lightness of being. I thought that was a different movie. That's a movie. That's a movie in the 80s with Daniel Day Lewis. He did Henry and June.
The guy that did Henry and June directed Rising Sun?
Oh, okay. So he actually did one of my favorite movies of all time. That's why I recognize the freaking name. He directed the Right Stuff.
The guy that directed The Right Stuff is the guy that directed Rising Sun?
Yes.
No wonder that was such a damn good movie.
Yeah.
Now I want to watch Rising Sun again, damn it.
Yeah. I should too. Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
Wow.
I don't know why they say he earned his breakthrough for the film Unbearable Likeness of Being when he did The Right Stuff 5 years earlier. This wiki article's not making any sense.
I don't think, as much as The Right Stuff is beloved now and respected now, I don't think it was actually that big of a hit. I could be wrong about that.
I think you're right. I don't think it made a ton of money.
I don't think it did.
So yeah, and I mean maybe it was maybe the movie itself just overshadowed the director. Right? It's like how I didn't really know who directed it. I loved it so much.
And,
I remember the name though.
Audiences weren't really signing up for 3-hour movies back then either, and The Right Stuff was a long movie.
It was, yeah. I remember it had an intermission. Yeah, I remember that was cool. You go get some more popcorn. I love that.
They should bring that back, I think.
Yeah. And chocolate, because I was a kid when I went there. So.
But as for the cameos for me, okay, to get back to Deadpool and Wolverine, that was a fascinating segue. But let's get back on track here. The one that didn't work for me as well, and would be the Channing Tatum showing up as Gambit. Now, I'm happy they did it. I like to see it. But I also try and put my headspace in, and I wonder how many, you yourself, Jedi Master Johnny D, as a fan of Marvel Comics, as a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, were you even aware that Channing Tatum had spent 5 years trying to make a Gambit solo movie, and when it was finally given the green light, Fox sold to Disney, and then the movie got canceled again?
No, I did not know that story.
See, so I feel like that probably missed for a lot of audience members who don't follow what's happening on the internet and stuff, right?
Yeah. So it didn't matter though, because I thought he did a great job, and I mean, because Gambit is, he was a great character in the cartoon, and I think he really shone as a character. They really upped him in the X-Men '97. So yeah, I was definitely ready for some good Gambit, and I thought Channing Tatum did a great Gambit.
He did good. Myself, though, I think it would have had more impact if they actually brought back the guy that played Gambit in X-Men Origin Wolverines. I think that would have been more appropriate.
I don't remember that Gambit. Which actor was that?
Taylor Kitsch.
Okay,
Taylor Kitsch. He was supposed to be the next Channing Tatum.
Oh, okay.
But
I assume he was good too.
did Wolverine Origins, and then he made the Battleship movie, and I think that kind of put the end to his. I think the only one that came out of that Battleship movie with a career still was Rihanna, and that's more because of her music career rather than her acting career. Because I'm sure not many people think of Rihanna as some really great thespian, but that's just my opinion.
But whips and chains excite her though, right?
Yes, they do.
But back to well, so the thing about Gambit, now that I think about it, I think just the character itself is just so good that it just makes other actors just it makes them look good. I mean, as long as they're good enough actors to do it, I think you can easily bomb if you don't know if you're not a good enough actor. But I was also thinking about Wolverine. Yeah, I mean Hugh Jackman's great as Wolverine, but just like the Punisher, I think there could be also multiple guys who could do Wolverine because the character's so strong. As we saw with actually one of the funniest cameos I felt was the Calvarine.
The Calvary, yes.
That
was my
cool.
second funniest. You know what? For me, the funniest one was when
What's
they
that?
did the comic book accurate height Wolverine. It was the Hugh Jackman Wolverine, but they
That was
shrunk him
too
down
short.
to 5'3".
Yeah. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's what 5 foot. I think I always place him as 5'5".
5'3".
I
5'3" is his.
in my head
If
canon,
you
I think
go into
five.
the Marvel handbook, the Marvel
I
Universe
know. They
handbook,
do 5'3".
he is 5'3".
He looked shorter than 5'3". He looked shorter than 5'3". It was
He
still
did.
funny.
He looked more Danny DeVito height. In fact, now that I say that, I wish they had just cast Danny DeVito in that role. Because back in the 80s, when they were trying to make a live-action X-Men movie, that was always the famous fan casting. It was either Danny DeVito as Wolverine or Bob, the guy from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What's his name?
Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins. Those are the two characters that were always cast as Wolverine back then because of their height.
I always thought 5'3" was too short. My head canon is he's not that short. He's 5'5".
No. Yeah.
So I always go against the grain.
But Danny,
because he never looks 5'3" when you see him in the comic books, right? Because they just it's just he's not he's short, but he's not that short from what I see. So.
Well, it's hard to say because a lot of the comic books are always action poses where he's like hunched over with his claws drawn and stuff like that, right? So it's hard to say, but he doesn't really come across as 5'3". I mean, that said, his main nemesis always refers to him as Runt, right? That's
5'5" is not that tall, so I mean that's why it's still fine for me. But just 5'3", I don't know. We're nickel and diming with our inches here. So.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
so any other thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine before maybe we move on to San Diego Comic-Con?
Well, yes. I mean, I definitely have two things. I still got to get back. I still want to talk to you about the Anchor Bean, but that will lead into the San Diego Comic-Con talk. So the other thing I want to talk to you is about the cameos. Isn't who showed up as cameos. It was who didn't show up in cameos.
Yeah, were you supposed to get like Taylor Swift as a Dazzler? Was that one thing that we were hoping to see?
That was a rumor, but it had been Entertainment Weekly had debunked it about a month before the release and said that she's not coming. But no, I'm not talking about what actors didn't show up in Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm talking about what characters didn't show up in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
And aside from Gambit, I was very surprised at the lack of any X-Men characters returning.
Yeah.
Like there was no Jean Grey. There was no Storm, no Beast, no... the two big rumors, well, one was a rumor, one was a set photo leak. The rumors were that Halle Berry would be coming back because about 2 years ago, she posted an Instagram picture of herself with white hair. So everyone assumed, because they were filming Deadpool and Wolverine at the time, that Halle Berry would be showing up at least for a cameo in the movie. And one of the leaks that had gone out during filming was there was pictures taken of original Cyclops actor James Marsters or James Marsden?
One of the two, but the guy who was in the Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Yeah, there was footage of him in the Void in a comic book accurate blue and yellow Cyclops costume as well. So he obviously had been, unless those photos were completely fake and Photoshop and doctored, he got cut from the movie as well. But I found it's kind of weird in a movie that's paying homage to like the Fox X-Men universe and everything that had come before and kind of saying like a farewell goodbye to that we didn't have any of
Yeah.
them.
Well,
And
I mean,
that
like I
especially there
say,
was no Professor X.
yeah. I mean, and now that we talk it out loud, I think it was kind of still secondary, right? That was just like a nice to do. They weren't all in on bringing everybody in, right? It was just kind of like, let's do this homage. Let's bring in who's willing to come in that doesn't like inconvenience the story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Stewart just would be. I mean, and unless you get him
Myself,
involved from the ground
I
floor,
wanted James McAvoy. So I was fine not having yet another Patrick Stewart Professor X cameo, because I mean the dude showed up in uh, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. He showed up in like I've had enough. I love Patrick Stewart. I'll take as much of his Professor X as they want, but I was actually kind of hoping for a James McAvoy Professor X appearance myself.
yeah.
Um,
I think though. I mean, yes, I think that would have been cool. I think there's only so many characters they could have in where suddenly it's like now they have to like because if he came in, then they'd have to develop this whole story of him dealing with Cassandra as his sister, and yeah, it just I think the movie it would be too much for the movie. The movie would have to be another hour, like an hour longer, right? Which
that's
is
fair.
that's
That's
my
fair.
sense. But yeah, no, yeah. I mean, but I mean, it's interesting. What if you were hoping to see some more? It sounds like so you thought maybe there might have been a bit more brought in. It sounds like is your
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and just the fact that this was a wolf, as we mentioned earlier, how awesome Hugh Jackman was in this performance. Um, I just thought it would have been really, and just to even have a scene to have a Wolverine where all of the X-Men have died, and just him seeing and interacting with, obviously different versions of the X-Men, but I just felt like there could have been some good dramatic work done in a couple of scenes there, but it is what it is. And I suppose maybe thematically it's even better. Like that is who this Wolverine was in this movie. He was a Wolverine that had lost everything. All the X-Men have died. So I suppose bringing X-Men into the movie for him to interact would potentially take away from that character arc somewhat. So I get it. I get it.
yeah.
Yeah. It was more of a surprise rather than a complaint that none of those characters showed up. More of a surprise, not necessarily a complaint.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and so uh, let's get back into this anchor being thing here now before we move on. Now, the storyline from the Marvel comics that had this, and again, um, it's the storyline that leads up into Marvel's Secret Wars. Which year was that put out? The Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars. Is that 2018?
It's probably around the 2015 era.
2015 to 2018? Okay.
Yeah.
So I keep, because I haven't read them myself, and people like that Secret Wars, but what I constantly see over and over again is everybody actually loves the storyline that led into Secret Wars called Time Runs Out. I
Yeah.
have no idea how many issues it was, but apparently what happened
It
was,
was at least
okay,
20. Like it was significant, right?
right?
Yeah.
And
It was
so
pretty cool.
I haven't read this Marvel Secret Wars, but from what I understand, what this secret, I read obviously the 1984 Secret Wars, but from what I understand about what the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars is, somehow Doctor Doom discovered that the Beyonders have been putting molecule men into every single reality in the multiverse, and when the molecule man from that universe dies, that universe gets destroyed. And for some reason, the Beyonders decided that they want to wipe out all of reality, and they start killing off the molecule men's, which triggers the effect of that reality being destroyed, because the molecule man is the anchor being in each reality as made by the Beyonders. And so I hear Doctor Doom figures out that this is what the Beyonders are doing, and Doctor Doom starts jumping from reality to reality to reality and gathering all of these molecule men and combining them all in one place. And when the Beyonders figure out what's happening, they confront Doom, who already has assembled all of the molecule men. And when they go to destroy him, somehow, and I'm paraphrasing because, like I said, I have not read this. This is just my understanding of the storyline. Somehow, when the Beyonders go to destroy them, somehow it transfers all of the power from the Beyonders into Doctor Doom, and he becomes God Emperor Doom.
Yeah, I mean that's more or less. I mean, you're probably getting it from wiki summaries. It's so much, and I'm at the point where I can't remember this stuff. So yeah, that sounds about right. And yeah, it is that epic, and it ends yes with Doctor Doom basically getting a shit ton of power, as you described, right? So
Right.
even if you didn't get the details 100% right, I'm sure you're pretty close. You have the essence of the story and how it plays out, right? Where it's kind of like there's a
Yes.
lot of like the reason why that time runs out is so cool because it's a lot of like discovery that's happening in different parts of the Marvel universe as different strands of people. Like Franklin Richards is involved, Mr. Fantastic's involved. They're all discovering these things independently, and then you see, and Doom is as well. And then you just see how Doom just kind of figures things out and just starts doing crazy Doom stuff, like you say, and then becoming this super powerful being, right? So
Okay.
yeah, so it's an epic story, great thread for Doctor Doom to follow, and he follows it, and he brings along all the rest of the Marvel universe with him to get to Secret Wars, right?
Okay. So my big question though is, can you recall, was I accurate in that the Molecule Man is the anchor being for all of these universes?
I don't
Where
remember
that
if they
is
use that term. That's the thing. Like, if did they use that term? I don't know. But I mean, yeah, he's kind of has that. Well, I mean, he's kind of like Wolverine's kind of different in terms of like he, it's like all these great people revolve around him. Well, Molecule Man's just kind of it's like the physical part of the universe revolves around him maybe because of his powers, right? So he's a little
right?
different, right? The
Yes.
Wolverine anchor being concept is kind of like he's just influential because of the people he interacts with and how he's always involved in these different sagas. While the Molecule Man is never really involved in that many sagas, so that's why he's a little bit different because yeah, as I said, he's more of a physical, while Wolverine's more of a part of the story itself, right? Which is
Right.
really what a time. I think that's how the timelines kind of fixate themselves on because they fixate on what is the story that's driving through the big moments of this of time, right? And
Okay.
that's the timeline. The sacred timeline is what happens around Earth and the heroes, and Wolverine's in the middle of that, so that's why he's an anchor being. So a little different. I don't remember if
Yes.
they use that concept, but yes, there is. Yeah, it's similar in that there's one being is kind of crucial because Wolverine still becomes crucial to the physical makeup of that dimension, right?
Yeah.
Just like the Molecule Man. So that's why, yeah, the powers that be are like, interested in and will be involved with them, and yeah, so there's that similarity. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll get back to the anchor being once we start talking about the San Diego Comic-Con and one of the big announcements. We'll wrap up the Wolverine and Deadpool talk. I'll wrap it up with asking Johnny D a question. So at the end of the movie, like they defeat Agent Paradox, who okay, I have to very quickly bring because I meant to bring this up earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you. As we were talking about the less you think about it, the more you're going to enjoy the movie. Because I was thinking about it while I was watching it, and the whole time I was watching it, I was trying to figure out what's going on with the TVA. I was trying to figure out, is this a TVA from before Loki season 2, or is this a TVA from after? Throughout the movie, I kind of resigned myself to the fact this must be before the events of Loki season 2, because even when they would show the timeline, they had the timeline on the horizontal view, where rather than the vertical view, where the timeline now looks like the tree of, I forget, there's a name for it. But at the end of Loki season 2, when he takes all the threads to the multiverse and he holds them together, it's no longer just one single timeline going through the loom. It's like in the shape of a tree, and each new timeline is like a new branch on the tree. And so the movie seemed to disregard all of that until the end, when I forget the character's name, but you had the one actress who returns from Loki season 2, and she seemed to be like the judge of the TVA who was not aware of what Paradox was doing. So Paradox seemed to be a rogue agent who was just looking out for himself and trying to accumulate power for himself, and had nothing to do with the goals of the TVA or maintaining a single, not a single time, but the what am I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, so
well,
I was a little
I think you're trying to decipher because, like I said, I felt in some ways this was just another episode of Loki, which is that's a fine thing because Loki was a cool show. And the fact is, yes, you're trying to piece together where does this episode sit in the Loki sequence, right? Of how the TVA is evolving and all the power players are working and how the timelines and dimensions are getting manipulated, right?
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
think you're trying to figure out.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
it's there, and yeah, I think there was probably good attention to detail, and why if one has the time and is a big enough fan, they could probably watch Loki, Deadpool a couple times, break it down, see different things, see the details that they probably put in there to make it kind of line up in an interesting way. But
Right.
yeah, definitely not in a first viewing unless you're super on top of things.
Yeah.
I can't piece together all the items.
But
I think you saw Loki just before you saw this. You rewatched Loki, didn't you?
yeah, I did. Yeah, and so
Yeah,
hence
yeah.
that's why I
You're
had
probably
more
seeing some more
issues with it,
threads and
perhaps.
connections.
Where
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this doesn't really line up. Like, yeah. The other thing to remember though is because of the writer strike and the actor strike, that this was filmed pretty much at the same time as Loki season 2 was filmed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
So yeah, there might be some
so it might just be more of a.
inconsistencies potentially because of that.
It's just like trying to write The Last Jedi when the Force Awakens hasn't even come out yet. But anyways, so I could nitpick there, but there's no need to do that. So, but let's get back. So at the end of the movie, the whole point of the movie was Deadpool finds out that Logan died. Logan is the anchor being. His reality is going to be destroyed. So he wants to go and get another Wolverine to bring back to his universe so that his universe does not get destroyed. We are told by Paradox, but Paradox is an unreliable narrator because he's caught lying about things many, many times throughout the movie. But he tells Deadpool that's not how it works. You can't just take a Wolverine from another timeline and your timeline no longer gets destroyed.
yeah.
But at the end of the movie, it seemed to be a happy ending, right? Like
it worked. It did work. That's the great thing, right? Like in Deadpool's naivety, he is able to make it work, right? Because it makes sense, right? Because an anchor being of, I'm sure any anchor being, but maybe Wolverine's an even stronger anchor being than most.
Right.
You can do that. You can substitute them in a different universe because they're that strong. Because he was that strong. He was weak. He was going to give up. He had a good talking to by what is it, X86, whatever her name is, and then he shows up and he basically helped win the day. And that's an anchor being of Supreme, right? Who can do what Deadpool set out to do, and Paradox just was too close-minded to think that was possible, and he was wrong. That's my sense.
So I cannot dispute anything you said there. So we are left sitting here thinking, okay, Deadpool did it. He got another Wolverine. He saved his universe. And so
Deadpool himself is super interesting because he has that basically fourth wall awareness. That's beyond. Yes. He understands the reality of that they're all movie characters, right?
Correct.
Like the comic character has the knowledge of the comics. She-Hulk is the same. Deadpool and She-Hulk are basically have similar powers, and that's interesting in its own. So I mean, they're almost beyond anchor beings. They're different. They're not anchor beings. They're just these people who have this awareness.
Yeah, and I did get that from the movie. I think that's why Paradox went to him, is because he realizes Deadpool is special, but he's not the anchor. He's not so important where if things go bad and he has to kill Deadpool, it's not going to affect anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I agree with that totally. How he is special, and that's, like I say, why Paradox did that. So that's how you kind of took it then. Hey, so Deadpool saved the Fox Marvel universe, and like it's still out there. It still exists. It's separate from the MCU.
He brought him in at a low point, he brought in that character, and the other anchor character is Robert Downey Jr.
You believe it's Robert Downey Jr.? You think
Oh
it's
no, no.
Tony Stark?
What? No,
You,
it's
you...
Robert Downey Jr. It's not right because Deadpool is aware of actors, and
Yes.
so he's brought in Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, to at the low point of the MCU, and
Yep.
now we're on our way back up because the another anchor person is the actor Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony
Interesting.
Stark, obviously. Well, let's go into that. Let's
All right. Oh
um
yeah.
yeah. So I think with Deadpool Wolverine, it was cool because it shows it was good. It was a good whatever conclusion. I mean, it's a trilogy, so maybe they'll make more Deadpools. I don't know. It was a good conclusion to his story and his specialness of being aware of the multidimensional metaphysics that actually has like a level which is us, the people of this earth, and then
Mm-hmm.
filmmakers and Kevin Feige and all that.
Okay.
And that he's bringing back Wolverine to help things out by acknowledging that they are at a low point. Why they're at a low point? Um, just maybe a couple movies that have not been as successful as the original MCU, but they're still probably not doing too bad. I mean, I think he was being tongue in cheek there, but there's obviously um, uh, I think the powers that be with getting we'll have to talk about this contract with Robert Downey Jr. But I think there's a bit of like we need to that was a fun experiment with what we've been doing for the last 5 years, but we need to kind of inject something new, and it's old but it's new with what
Yep.
they're going to do with Robert Downey Jr. So I think this movie is kind of fun that it took that piss, but that moment, but it's good timing where it's let's bring in some energy from Ryan Reynolds and just the fun of the classic X-Men era of that when Marvel was first starting to that was Fox doing what Fox did helped because Feige was associate producer on X-Men. That's where he learned
Correct.
his craft was working with
Correct.
Fox on their movies, and that's where Marvel learned its craft of let's try this out. Let's develop these movies, the Spider-Man movies, X-Men movies, Hulk. And what they learned there, they moved on to with Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. And that's where they really hit their stride in the 2010s. And so then they kind of done this experimental phase and it's kind of dropped a bit. And now they're ready to revitalize themselves. And this movie's been good for that because it's kind of bringing in the old, but injecting with the new. And now we're on to a new era, which is the San Diego Comic Con. I think really showed that. So yeah, I think it was a cool
Yeah.
movie for that, just to kind of pivot us away into the future.
Yeah. No. I totally agree with all that. And yeah. So let's get into the San Diego Comic Con. Now, I did watch the entire Marvel panel so that you and our listeners did not have to.
Thank you for doing that.
I'll just go through this one chronologically because it will also be in the order of release of these projects as they come out. So the first thing that they brought on stage was the cast of Captain America Brave New World. It originally was titled New World Order, but that has some real life connotations that people might look down upon. So they changed it from Brave New or New World Order to Brave New World. They had the entire cast on, and they showed an unreleased trailer. So we can't go and watch the trailer that they released, but they did describe it. The things that I found interesting from the trailer that was discussed is that they finally refer to the giant celestial that has been sticking out of the Indian Ocean for the last 3 years since the Eternals movie. So it is revealed in the movie
That's
that
cool.
it on Earth it is referred to as Celestial Island. Which
Yep.
I do have to comment. How the hell does anybody know that these things are called Celestials? How would they know to call it Celestial? Nobody on Earth.
Doctor Strange might have heard about it or seen it in a book or seen it in a vision, or Wong.
So it's called Celestial Island. There's a
or
whole
someone
bunch of
someone in the inside knows, and they're just like, let's just
Maybe.
name it Celestial, and they're like, sure, that's as good a name as any. But that person actually knew because there's some
the only
reason
thing
like a
that
alien spy or something, like a Skrull or something. Who knows?
Well, the only thing that would really make sense would be one of the members of the Eternals is somehow working with humanity now after the event. Although didn't they all leave Earth? I don't even remember
Yeah,
what the
but
hell
I
happened.
mean, like I'm sure other people have, like the Celestials as a name has been passed down, and other
Well, nobody
races
on
around.
Earth knows what a
No, but
celestial
I
is,
mean other
though,
races around the galaxy, right? And
right?
they could have told them, or they've infiltrated the Earth, and they brought it up. Anyway,
Well, I had no point in arguing about it until we've seen the movie because it might be explained within the movie.
yeah.
But it is kind of put across that the nations of Earth are kind of fighting over Celestial Island because, as President Thunderbolt Ross says in the movie, it is the world's first source of adamantium.
Whoa.
So
Okay.
that is how adamantium comes into the MCU, is they are harvesting it from the body of this dead celestial.
So is adamantium in the comic books? Is it like, I thought it was like developed by man, or is it, what's its story? Because vibranium's from Wakanda and the meteorite, right? What's
Now that
adamantium in the comic book world? Where's that come from?
I thought in the comic book, adamantium was it was some sort of alloy made from vibranium. I felt like, I could be wrong, but I thought adamantium was
Yeah,
a combination.
I think you might be kind of right. Yeah, it was like a human created thing, but in the MCU, it's basically from the Celestial. Is basically they're made of adamantium.
It's a gift from the gods, basically.
Well,
Hey,
it makes sense. I mean, Celestial, like a giant thing made of adamantium, that would be pretty. That would be a Celestial. They're pretty
right?
tough, right?
And so the other big thing from that part of the panel was it was also revealed who Giancarlo Esposito will be playing, because his character was featured in the trailer. Giancarlo Esposito is, of course, Gus Fring from Breaking Bad and Grand Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So it had previously been unrevealed who he was. Speculation was ranging anywhere from GW Bridge to Machine Man. But all speculation was incorrect. He's actually playing Sidewinder, King of the Serpent Society. So I mean, that's not really an earth-shaking reveal to me.
No, I barely remember that character in that group.
All I remember about the Serpent Society is that they did fight Captain America a lot during the 80s when Mark Grunwald was the writer of Captain America, and
Yeah.
it was just basically a bunch of snake-themed villains, right? Like you had one guy named Copperhead, you had Sidewinder, you had the female Diamondback, who I think she ended up Cap's girlfriend for a few years in the comic books.
Yeah.
So that was that. After Captain America Brave New World, they brought out the cast for Thunderbolts with an asterisk. And so they had the entire cast on stage. You had Wyatt Russell playing John Walker. You had the guy that plays Winter Soldier. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan. You had Julia Louis-Dreyfus was on stage. You had Florence Pugh, the sister to Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, was on stage, as well as the actors who played Taskmaster, Ghost, David Harbour as Red Guy. He was the big joke, is that he showed up in costume, and he was like, "What? Nobody else showed up in costume? What the hell?" That was his big joke.
That's good. I like David. David Harbour. He's pretty funny. So
yeah, and you had the guy that will be playing the Sentry, but they didn't call him the Sentry in the panel. They just called him Bob, which is interesting. They also showed
the Sentry. Are you talking about like this, like who is that key character in when Brian, like when
Michael
the Avengers,
Bendis?
Brian,
That's
Bendis,
the
right?
basically
The new
Superman
Avengers
level character. That is correct. Yes,
yeah. The guy
Sentry.
who like had been wiped out of the Marvel universe.
That is
and then
correct.
comes back.
Yes.
Wow, they're bringing him in. So that Thunderbolts, yeah, because I was always like, why are they making this movie? But that sounds like actually it's got some gas to it. That movie, right?
Yeah, like I couldn't.
I love Sebastian Stan. I wish he'd play Luke Skywalker someday.
Right?
But I like him in all movies. So Yeah,
And,
so I'm actually excited to see that movie now. I
yeah,
was definitely not
and I mean,
before.
Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier wasn't necessarily such a great show, but I did like Wyatt Russell and how they portrayed his character of John Walker, the guy that replaced Steve Rogers, Captain America. So I'm excited to see that. Yeah, I'm much more excited for that movie. And the other thing that was revealed from that is it's been a question since Age of Ultron, but Thunderbolts will finally reveal who bought Stark Tower. Because if you remember in Age of Ultron, the tower got attacked when they were having their party there, and Ultron came out and it blew up. And
Yeah.
that was when they moved to Avengers Compound. And it has been a question in the 12 years since, was because they did have a line that Tony Stark sold Stark Tower. He didn't even own it anymore. And so it has been a question. Well, who bought it? Rumors have gone everywhere from Harry Osborn to Victor Von Doom to Reed Richards, and that it'll be the new Baxter building. So without spoilers, that question will be finally answered. The third movie that was represented during the Marvel San Diego Comic-Con was, what was it? You had Captain America: Brave New World, and then you had Thunderbolts.
Well,
And
it
oh yes,
was
it
Robert
was
Downey Jr.
Fantastic. No, it was Fantastic Four.
Oh.
They had the Fantastic Four, who has not started filming yet. Today, Monday, July 29th, is actually the first day of filming. But they did have 3 minutes that they showed. It was all like pre-viz stuff. Like it showed the costume test. There was a little CGI thing where it was, this is the Future Foundation, and just showing the world of New York 1966. The big reveal from the footage, though, was we did get our first glimpse of Galactus, as there was a shot of people in a high-rise tower building, like working in their office, and they look out the window and they see just this giant face, like a
Huh,
giant
that is
human being
cool.
looking into their building. So we are not getting Cloud Galactus. We are getting live action comic book accurate Galactus in this Fantastic Four movie.
Wow, that's
Uh,
exciting. That is very exciting.
yes,
Yeah, that's cool.
they had the main cast on stage. They actually had a Fantasticar fly onto stage and fly away.
What?
Uh,
How big was the Fantastic car?
it was like real life size.
What? Well,
Yeah.
how did it fly?
I,
Was it
I
on like
don't.
wires?
I just saw pictures. I didn't actually see the footage. I think it was almost inflatable, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I gotta find some time to do a deep dive on some of these trailers. Well, I guess I'll come over to your place pretty soon. And you'll show me some good clips.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That
And
sounds
then
hilarious.
the other big thing at the end of that was Feige revealed that not only is, because the Fantastic Four movie, it does take place on a parallel Earth, because it is a it's a period place. It's a retro futuristic 1960s.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, but he did
interesting.
add at the end that the Fantastic Four will appear in both of their next two Avengers movies as well.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, give them some a pure kind of starting point without much
Yes.
clutter in the universe.
I mean,
But then have them cross to another
the
dimension.
speculation is at the end of this Fantastic Four movie, Galactus does eat their Earth, and their reality starts to end, and they need to find a new reality, which I think ties in somewhat to that time runs out storyline that happened before Secret Wars. But I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, well, if they make now that Kang's kind of seems to be kind of out of the picture, they have Galactus is one of the big bads, and of course Robert Downey Jr. when we get to him. Yeah, that sounds like some exciting stuff could be brewed up for this next phase or phases of the MCU.
Right? Yeah.
Wow,
So
go
yeah,
Feige.
and funny that you bring up Kang, because the next Avengers movie was supposed to be the Kang Dynasty. Marvel had previously announced that Avengers 5 will be the Kang Dynasty, and Avengers 6 will be Secret Wars. Recently, though, they had stopped using that title, and Avengers 5 was just being referred to as the Untitled Avengers movie. So after the Fantastic Four, Feige took the stage, and he revealed that Avengers 6, not 5, Avengers 6 is still titled Avengers Secret Wars, and he said to make this movie, which is probably one of the most epic stories that Marvel has ever written, he needed some of the best directors that Marvel had access to, and he announced that the directors of Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, Joe and Anthony Russo, will be returning to direct Avengers 6, Avengers Secret Wars. And at this point, he had the Russo brothers come out onto stage. Did you have something you wanted to say there?
No. I mean, that was the big news, which of course that transcended. Everybody heard about that news. Well, the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. So you continue your continue the description of it all.
So they came onto stage. Now this is really interesting. I'm so confused because, as we know, as I mentioned earlier, there are two Marvel Secret Wars. There's the Marvel Secret Wars that was put out in 1984, which was the Beyonder comes to Earth and he takes all of the superheroes and all of the supervillains and he transports them onto a different planet called Battle World. Because what exactly did he wanted the heroes to fight the villains to see who was the most powerful? Like, why exactly did he do that? I
think it was more or less it was to see who was the most powerful, because he was just curious about that universe and Earth. So it was just to see that, because in Secret Wars 2, he actually wants to see what it's like to live among the people, and so it was not as well received. But actually, on reading it, it's actually a very interesting story. I actually did enjoy Secret Wars 2 when I did my Marvel read through. But yeah, so I mean, the Beyonder is just this super powerful being. I think he's part of a group of beings. This is how they're kind of revealing a bit more. They're kind of retconning him or whatever. They're
well, I mean, that was written in 1984. So by the time we get to 2015, there's another 30 years of storytelling. So that we eventually find out.
So, but yeah, he was basically, he was just kind of this super powerful being that finds the 616 universe, right. And basically has them fight it out.
And so there's also the 2015 Secret Wars, which is completely different, where this is where, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Doom had taken the powers of the Beyonders for himself.
Yeah, they're like kind of these like creepy. They're these aliens. They're kind of like grayish kind of aliens. They look very alien-like. They're not cool, slick Duran like guys, which the 80s Beyonder was. Right. They're aliens, and they're super powerful as well. So yeah.
Now, as I haven't read this, Doom, I mean, he did all of this to stop reality from being destroyed. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, I don't need to get too into that. But basically, that Secret Wars is like Doom takes the powers of the Beyonders, he stops reality from being destroyed, and he creates his own reality. And I believe it was called Battle World, and they take all these different famous storylines over the course of Marvel history, and they're all happening on this one planet. As someone, like I said, I haven't read it. That's my quick summary.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's one just giant battle with all these different areas, where all these different battles are happening.
Yeah. So again, like I say, it's completely different from the original, and I just find it interesting that the Russo brothers, when they took the stage to say that they are directing Secret Wars, like they said, they thought they had finished telling the stories that they had to tell with their 4 movies in the Marvel Universe, but he said Secret Wars was the comic that got him into comic book and comic book characters when he was a kid. And he said if he was ever given the chance to bring that story to life, he would come back and do it. And that's why they are there doing it. So I am confused. I'm not sure. What Secret Wars are they making here?
If you think about it, the second Secret Wars still was paying homage because the fact that it was a battle world. It was just a smaller battle world where just heroes versus villains. But what Hickman did, he was definitely paying homage to that by having Doom just having a crazy battle world that's like tons of like civilizations battling each other. But it's the same concept. So I think the Russo brothers can kind of blend both, and it'll still be true to that joy that they had as kids, right? So yeah.
Okay, I never put this together before. So just quickly, I want to think this out, because the original 84 was just the regular Marvel heroes and the regular Marvel villains fighting each other. But when the 2015, it's the same thing, except it was Marvel heroes from like different realities.
Yeah, right? It's just far more epic, but it's the same concept, right?
Okay.
It's not just one guy observing it. It's just what it is, but it is the same and there's Beyonders and all that stuff. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that I think the Russo brothers, and I'm sure when they read Hickman stuff, they're like, this stuff is great too. Like, and so and of course they're going to work with Feige and others to really come up with a good story. So yeah, and having like Downey Jr. So yes, Robert Downey Jr. is going to play. It's they didn't say he's Tony Stark though yet. I don't think they revealed that. They just say he's going to be Doctor Doom, right?
Okay,
That's,
so let me finish that. Okay, so they say that's how they were going to come back, is if they were able to tell that story that got them into superheroes in the first place. And then he said, but in order to tell this story, he says there's one character that hasn't been introduced in the MCU yet that is necessary to do so. And that is what Avengers 5 will be. And that was when they revealed that the title of Avengers 5 is no longer the Kang Dynasty. It is Avengers Doomsday.
yeah.
And then he says, and in order to play the greatest villain in Marvel history, we need one of the greatest living actors of our time to play this character. And as he was saying this, what had happened was, did you actually see the reveal, Johnny D?
I've seen pictures of it, so yeah.
So as he was saying this, the stage fills up with Doombots.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And right when he says, and it says, and so to have the greatest, we need the greatest actor. And as he says that, the Doombots split up, and there's one Doom, because all the Doombots are wearing gray, but this guy is wearing all green. And then he walks up to the front of the stage, and he rips the mask off, and it's as we've been alluding to all episode, it is Robert Downey Jr. So yes, the question is this a Tony Stark variant, or is this Victor Von Doom?
They didn't mention that. I don't think they mentioned that, right?
No one has mentioned it. What came out of Robert Downey Jr.'s after he took off the mask? I mean, the place went freaking nuts. It was like they just won the Stanley Cup, and his line was, "New mask, same task."
Same task. What's the task?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. It could be that. I mean,
what was Tony Stark's task?
in Tony Stark, he wanted an Iron Man in every city, didn't he? He wanted a guy in a suit of armor in every city protecting everybody, right? Isn't that kind of what Age of Ultron was all about?
I mean, if you think about his long story thread, it's got to be, well, first off, he just wanted to make money selling weapons, but then he becomes like on the side of justice at the end of the movie, because he basically reveals himself and he's like, we're not going to be a weapons company anymore. Right. So yeah, justice.
Well, hey, maybe world. Okay,
in the pursuit of justice, you could be a hero or a villain, right?
Well, so, I don't know. Mean, we could say world peace. It's just Doom has a different idea of how to get world peace.
Because it's a line that's so like. It's so many interpretations. So only Robert Downey Jr. is going to really know what exactly he was saying.
But the interesting part, okay, I forgot. He did have one other line after he said, "No, new mask, same task," and then he said, "What can I say? I like playing complicated characters." And then it went nuts. And then Feige came out, and Feige repeated his line like he wanted the audience.
He said, "New task." New mask, same task.
Feige said the exact same thing. He repeated that like he was hammering it home. There's a specific point to that. New mask, same task.
Well, I hope they answer what they meant like 5 years from now. But I don't like. Wow, that's cool. I mean, but I really don't know what they're going for.
And then Feige's got a sense of humor too, right? Because this was the end of the panel, and then so after he's like, Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, as he said, new mask, same task. It's more cheers, and then he goes, "Anyone have any questions?" And it's like, "Oh, we're out of time."
Yeah. So the only other thing I can think of is the same task is referring to is making a shit ton of money. Is the task. That's what they were referring to.
Yes.
Because that's what they're going to do. Just like they did with Iron Man and Endgame. So there you go. That's the task. Make tons of money.
So I don't know whether this is going to be like literally he's playing Victor Von Doom and he just looks like Tony Stark, or if this is going to be a Tony Stark that becomes Doctor Doom, or say perhaps like he was in a plane crash and landed in Latveria and he got raised by the Von Dooms. But I will say, perhaps we did get a clue in Deadpool and Wolverine that we're completely overlooking. Got any idea what I'm suggesting at?
Sorry, that was alluded to in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Well, not even directly, but I mean, if you want some evidence about which way they could go, we just have to look at Deadpool and Wolverine, which established something that.
Is that there's already a battle world ready to go with that planet that they're on?
No, I think that's it. What my point is, Johnny D, is that Deadpool and Wolverine brought back Chris Evans as Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
And Chris Evans is Johnny Storm. That's not Steve Rogers. So they established that you can have two people that look exactly the same that are completely different people. So if you have Chris Evans that looks like Johnny Storm and you have Chris Evans that looks like Cap Steve Rogers, why can't you have a Victor Von Doom that looks like Robert Downey Jr.?
Well, and that's what I thought when you first told me about Robert Downey Jr. because you brought up the rumor last episode.
Yes.
And I thought, is he just going to play Victor Von Doom? Because I thought he could do it. He just has a younger version of himself, and the Victor Von Doom story is great, right? The guy who's like raised by gypsies or is a gypsy and dabbles in magic, and but then goes to like the premium university in New York in the Marvel Universe, Empire State University, and blows himself up in an experiment where he's merging science and magic. That's a fantastic story, and Downey Jr. could do it. Yeah, so I mean, why not just? I mean, I think I'd be fine with both. The Tony Stark angle is cool. The Victor Von Doom storyline's cool. I mean, I'm guessing. I was thinking about why is Robert Downey Jr. doing this? I mean, yeah, he's going to make a lot of money, but he has a lot of money. Is he just like doing these kind of movies? I'm thinking he just likes doing them, and he's excited to come back. He misses it. He just needed a break.
He's got a lot of money, but he's also. What was the last movie Robert Downey Jr. had that made money?
Well, I mean, he just wanted to
Doolittle was one of the biggest bombs of the last 5 years. I think that movie cost over $200 million to make, and I don't even think it made $50 million in box office.
Got it. Right? So yeah, it could be that. I mean, he did just win an Academy Award with Oppenheimer, so he kind of got that feather in his cap.
That's true.
So maybe he needed a break just to kind of. Yeah, well, I mean, Doolittle. Was Doolittle trying to make money? I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, like that was supposed to be his.
Oh really? Okay.
Franchise.
Just use my. Oh, he's gonna be a franchise. Really?
Yeah.
Franchise?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Doolittle, man. Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, my lack of excitement shows probably one of the reasons why many people's lack of excitement.
Right. And yes, we can't be jaded. And yes, it is like
my point is that I think he's excited to come back, which is great because I want him to be back because he's excited to be back, right? And then we'll all have a good old time watching.
And I do think thematically, I did see someone point this out on Twitter. I didn't figure this one out on myself, but he showed the scene from the original Avengers movie where Tony Stark confronts Loki in Avengers Tower. Right? Do you remember, like near the end of the movie?
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting how, I mean, that's close to the start of the MCU, and you had Loki was the bad guy, and you had Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. is the good guy, and now that they're coming back, now Loki is the good guy who's sitting on the throne, keeping all of reality together, and Robert Downey Jr. is the bad guy who wants to take control of it all for himself.
Yeah.
So thematically, like that works on another level as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. All right, Noah, I think we got a half an hour left, so I do want we can wrap up on Marvel, but I do want to hear in this last half hour or part of the last half hour the non-Marvel stuff that you heard from San Diego Comic-Con.
Well, there's not a whole lot.
Everybody saw that Marvel was going to do their big thing, and they're all just kind of like, okay, we'll let them have it. We'll back off a bit.
Yeah,
is that
I do see a lot of people shitting all over DC because DC did not really even have a presence. And their big reveal at the San Diego Comic-Con was that they are going back to the old circular DC logo. Right? So a lot of people are
DC.
saying, like,
yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, they have a lot to go, though, right? They have a lot to go. I mean, Warner Brothers and DC and TNT, they're all in such a flux right now, it seems, how they run things.
Well,
I,
I did
they
see
just don't
one
have that
take where
focus, I think, to deliver like Disney does with let's get the big package ready for Star Wars Con and San Diego Comic Con, right?
yeah,
They just seem
and
like
one
they're
guy.
just so fragmented that I mean, hey, at least James Gunn can just keep on doing what he's doing, and other people are doing what they're doing, creating interesting things. But yeah, it doesn't have that cohesive. Um,
No, it's you're not getting the excitement and the clicks, but it's worth pointing out that James Gunn, he has a plan and he's sticking to it. He's not change like Marvel is scrambling, right? Like this is where Marvel is right now. This is not at all where they were a year ago. Like they're
yeah, I don't think.
in a
Yeah,
lot of
maybe
ways.
a bit of scrambling. It seems pretty like seems fairly well thought out. What you've described. But yes, it felt like a bit of a scramble when they got Downey Jr. back. You're
Well,
thinking they're still scrambling though?
it was. Well, I mean, this was supposed to be Kang. It's supposed to be Jonathan Majors. It's supposed to be the Kang dynasty,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
none of
yeah.
this was supposed to be. This
I
was
think they
not
started
their
to scramble
plan.
6 months ago, and the
Yeah.
scrambling is the pressure helped them to kind of come up with some good stuff. I think the scramble they did well with their scramble but I think they had
And
to start 6 months ago.
I've seen some people speculating that actually they're not scrambling and that this was Marvel's plan all along. I saw one
No,
guy
I mean the
breaking.
Kang situation was they
But okay.
that can't be part
Here's
of the plan.
here's the argument though. Here's the argument. The Secret Wars storyline where Doctor Doom was going around and gathering all of the molecule men so that he could use the power, right? They're saying that that's what the Council of Kangs are. That Marvel has already set up all of that work for
Oh yeah,
Doctor
yeah,
Doom. And they say that if you, because I've never read Secret Wars, and they say when they showed Loki sitting on that throne that looked like a tree at the end of Loki season 2, that is God Emperor Doom's throne in Secret Wars. That he said that's what it looked like, is what
Okay,
Loki
so
was
let me
sitting on.
ask you this: what do you think they came up with first? The concept of having Doctor Doom being a pivotal part of this story, or them talking to Robert Downey Jr. and saying, "Let's
Doom,
bring you back"?
Doom, 100%.
Doom.
I can buy a lot
I
more
can see
that
that. I mean,
Doom
they knew they had to bring Doom back, Doom
for
in.
Secret Wars. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's probably been years that they've been thinking about Doom.
But my
So when you
question is, oh, go ahead.
so when do you think they started talking to Robert Downey Jr. about all this?
I think that's new. I
That's over
think
the last. That's part of the scramble.
I think that's the last couple weeks, and it
Yeah,
started to leak.
they might have done Kang and then Doctor Doom, and then they would have like found somebody cool to play Doctor Doom, but they never thought of doing it. I mean, or maybe they just thought, let's find somebody cool, and then that cool person could be Robert Downey Jr. Sure,
Well,
that could be it.
is Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom going to be Doom in the Fantastic Four movie? You mentioned something earlier about contracts. Have you heard anything about the contract that he signed? Or you were just throwing contract out there?
I was just saying. I probably just said that he's just getting a crap ton of money.
We do know that the main villain of the Fantastic Four movie is going to be Galactus, but it's also known that Doom does have a presence in the movie, but he's not going to be the main villain. So I'll be curious to see if Downey Jr. shows up in the Fantastic Four movie as Doctor Doom from that universe, and that he's coming with that version of the MCU. And I will quickly throw out the idea of seeing Reed Richards portrayed by Pedro Pascal facing a Doctor Doom portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. I think that's pretty cool casting.
Oh, is that who the Mr. Fantastic is? Pedro Pascal?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Oh, you didn't? No, I didn't. Maybe you mentioned that.
The cast of the Fantastic Four?
No, give it to me.
Oh, Pedro Pascal is Mr. Fantastic.
I might have known that before. I mean, was that known before this Comic Con?
Yeah, that's been out for about a month
or
so now.
But yes, but thanks for reminding me. And who else?
Some lady named Vanessa Hudgens. I don't know who she is, but she's playing the Invisible Woman. The guy from Stranger Things is playing Johnny Storm. Not one of the kids, but the leader of the Hellfire Club. The guy that died last season. What's his name?
Oh, the guy metalhead?
Yeah,
no.
The metalhead guy.
Oh, okay.
What was his character's name?
I forget.
Well, you know who I'm talking about, though, right?
The guy who played Metallica.
Yeah.
He should have played Iron Maiden. But I didn't see that scene. But he played Metallica. But I think Iron Maiden's better.
I'm not.
That's why I'm not watching that.
He's playing Johnny Storm, and the guy from The Bear, not the main guy, but the guy that plays his cousin, the guy with the short hair, he is the Ben Grimm the Thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Nuance, I'll give you time for one or two more of things you want to talk about Comic-Con before we wrap up.
Okay. Two things then that I specifically know I wanted to talk about. One, I was just bringing up as a point because it's more for you, because we both like comic books, and I know, as you said earlier, into Doctor Who, it was announced that they are doing a 6-issue Star Trek meets Doctor Who comic book series coming out this fall.
Okay. Cool.
So if you want to see the OG Enterprise Captain Kirk meeting up with Doctor Who, I don't know what version of Doctor Who it is, but I know that they're doing the crossover.
I might wander into a comic store and buy those. At least the first couple issues. That sounds cool. That's awesome. Thanks for that tidbit.
And the only other thing I want to talk, this one's a little more selfish, is I did also watch the Alien Romulus panel.
That was at Comic-Con?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. I wanted to hear one other non-Marvel Comic-Con, other than the DC's going back to their round logo. Because that's fairly underwhelming.
Well, I mean, DC also dropped footage from their new animated show, Creature Commandos, which is officially the first thing that will be part of the new DC universe. But I mean, it's a bunch of characters that I don't know. Right.
Okay.
I know, like, the one character from Suicide Squad, Weasel. I know he's in it. I know there's a Frankenstein character from DC Comics. He's in this Creature Commando, and a Rick Flag is in the Creature Commando show. But it's not a title. I've never read a Creature Commando comic book. I don't have any associated characters, so my level of excitement for that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Once the Superman movie's coming out, I'm all in. I'll be there opening weekend.
Yeah.
Creatures Commando is not stealing the thunder of Robert Downey Jr. returning as Doctor.
But there was an alien.
But
panel,
I'd watched.
So tell me about aliens.
There's an Alien Romulus panel. We did see a new Alien Romulus trailer when we saw Deadpool and Wolverine this weekend. It was actually the first little bit of story that I got. I know you saw it. Did that get you any more interested? I don't.
Sorry, that last trailer we saw.
Yeah, the one we saw before Deadpool and Wolverine.
No, it just looks like there's nothing new, right?
Nothing new.
It's just another alien story. And yeah, I mean, and as I showed you, I just bought the reprint that had the Dark Horse alien story, where all in one, where it's really the story of Hicks, who doesn't die like he died in Earth Aliens 3. That saga is really that's for me is the next. That's my headcanon Aliens. That's where it's epic, right? Where it's like takes place on Earth, and that's what I want to see. I want to see that kind of stuff. I don't want to see the same story of, we're running around a ship, we're scared because aliens are chasing us. I've seen that before, right? So I mean, I'm sure it's going to be exciting to watch for Aliens fans who like to see that stuff. For a new generation of Aliens fans, yeah, that's probably going to be cool. But no, it's not exciting me. I don't need to see that. I've already seen it. I'll just watch Ridley Scott's Alien again. That's what I'd rather do with my time. So yeah, that's my sense. Yeah.
I can't argue that. For me, it's more. I mean, you're not wrong. But I love the Aliens, and I go back to Prey, and I'm looking like Prey. It was just the original Predator remade, and I still thought it was a fabulous movie.
Well, because it was different. At least it was different, right? Like if this was Aliens, I don't know, on the Old West, yeah.
Right? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, Prey was cool because it was the same story but different era, which I mean, so it was a little bit more interesting. I didn't really crave seeing Prey either. You just put it on and I was like, this looks good, and I just wanted to keep watching it because it drew me in because the formula works, right? And it works when you can mix and match with different history. And of course, I'm a history fan, so I love different parts of history. So I could see the Predator in every era. I could see Predator fighting gladiators in Rome, or
right?
Stuff, it'll keep my interest because it's something interesting to me, which is a different historical setting. But that Aliens just didn't look any different to me than any other.
I don't know if I'll be able to change your mind at all. I will say, based on what I've learned from the panel, is that he is specifically not showing you things to keep them a surprise. And what this Romulus space station is, it is a science and development space station where they are experimenting with facehuggers and on the Xenos, and we are going to see things that we've never seen before in this movie. Because
that could be a stepping stone then to kind of the storylines I'm talking about, where it becomes more epic, where it was about scientists in experimenting and the experiments going awry and eventually leaking onto Earth where it causes problems. That could be what this is. So yeah, I give you that. That could be some interesting stuff. Sometimes I just like to see the first 10 minutes where they have the science talk, and then I don't need to see the people getting killed at that point, because I've seen that before, right? I'll just see the cool science talk where they actually build the universe a bit, right?
Yes. Other things that got me excited for the movie is that he pointed out that anything on set is 99% practical. He pretty much has no CGI involved with the actors at all. And in fact, he brought back Stan Winston's crew from Aliens. So all of the puppeteers and all of the people working on the suits, they are the same people that worked on James Cameron Aliens in 1986. In fact, he made the point of saying that the guy that physically built the Queen alien in Aliens is the same guy that built all of the aliens and facehuggers that we're going to be seeing in Romulus.
Okay, cool.
So that has me excited. Other cool things was he had 3 different people ask questions. Ridley Scott showed up in a video question. Guillermo del Toro showed up with a video question. And the one that I thought was a neat little thing was Dan Trachtenberg was the 3rd director that showed up and asked him his questions. The reason I bring up Dan Trachtenberg is because when Dan Trachtenberg showed up on the screen, he's like, hey, Fede Alvarez is the name of the director, and he's like, hey, I just wanted to ask you a question about Alien. I am here in New Zealand filming something. And then he stopped himself, was like, well, I can't tell you what it is that I'm filming. So and if you don't know who Dan Trachtenberg is the guy that wrote and directed that Predator movie that I just mentioned, Prey. So I find it very interesting that the guy that directed that Predator movie shows up in the Comic-Con panel to ask an alien question while he's filming a movie that he can't talk about what it is yet. So, of course, what I'm hinting to is that the guy that made Prey is making another Predator movie, and he's filming it right now.
I thought there's known that he's making another Predator movie.
Nothing's official. Nothing's official. Okay. We all want it. We all expected it because it was such a huge success, but there has not been a prequel officially announced, which is probably why he couldn't say what it was that he was working. And his question for the guy was, who do you think would win in a fight, an alien or a predator? And basically his answer was what? His answer was, it all depends what alien and what predator you're talking about, right? But go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, is that alluding to that they're eventually going to do an Aliens versus Predator again?
Oh, I didn't even put that together. I was so excited at the fact that the guy was making another Predator movie. I will also quickly say, because I did mention on a previous episode where I had speculated that Mark Hamill was filming scenes for The Mandalorian and Grogu, because I went through this convoluted explanation of how it's believed that they're already filming right now. And then Mark Hamill was on Twitter saying that he's starting his first day on filming something that hasn't been announced yet, so he couldn't say what it was. And so I did try to connect the dots to say that he was working on the new Mandalorian movie. It was revealed what it was that he was working on, and I was wrong. What he was working on. And I've never seen the original. I don't even know. But apparently they made a sequel to Corvette Summer. And that's
Corvette Summer?
Yeah.
Was that a movie he was in like after Star Wars or before?
I think that was the movie he did before I'm not sure. I've never seen it.
I barely remember that name, and I've never seen that movie. So
yeah. So
he's gonna do a sequel to that movie.
He's already finished filming a movie to Corvette Summer, and Corvette Summer was 1978. A student hooker, Annie Potts, in a van picks up a Las Vegas-bound teen, Mark Hamill, on the trail of a stolen Stingray. So that's what Corvette Summer was. And yes, it was the first movie he did after Star Wars, and he just filmed a sequel to it.
That is, well, yeah, that's very interesting. I guess maybe he was like Corbett Summer. People should have loved that movie. Why didn't they see that movie? But now it's his chance to show everybody what a brilliant movie it was. Because I certainly didn't see it.
Right?
That's hilarious. Well, anyway, I'll see anything with him. I mean, yeah, he was really good in the show was a little boring at times, not great. Sometimes it was okay, but it was this show about the Knights Templar in like the 13th century called
Okay.
Nightfall. He
Okay.
was really good in that. It was like because it's the one time I've seen him where he's really not Luke Skywalker, and he was great. He was this old grizzled crusader, part of this kind of crazy sect of crusaders of the Knights Templar fighting in France. So yeah, I'd see him
Yeah.
in more stuff. I think he should do more stuff. I always liked him in the ads with the food delivery. Was it DoorDash
Okay.
or something?
Yeah, the ones with him and Patrick Stewart.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think, and like I say, I think him and Harrison Ford should do a buddy cop movie. I think it'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Harrison excuse me. Harrison Ford was on stage at Comic-Con. He was pretty awesome. He actually should check that footage because he kind of hulked out a little bit on stage.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I haven't seen Harrison Ford be that animated ever.
yeah. Okay, well,
Like really, like
yeah.
when you think of Han Solo and Indiana Jones, the guy's not really animated, but he did like a Hulk out transformation on stage on San Diego Comic Con, and I was like, he's having fun, man. Like this is awesome. So
That's
that
good.
got me
That's good
excited for
stuff.
that. So,
All right, Nuance.
but
Any other last thoughts before we sign off for tonight?
no, my friend, I think that's it. That's all I got for you this week.
All right. Well, thank you for that's good discussions on Wolverine and Deadpool. Yeah, thanks for sharing all the
Oh,
tidbits
oh, oh, oh,
of
oh,
San Diego
oh.
Comic Con. Oh, what's the last tidbit? What's the
I didn't
last
get
tidbit?
back to this.
Sounds
I didn't
exciting.
get back to this. Okay. To go back to where we were at the start, Deadpool and Wolverine, and how we were talking about how it didn't really set up much for the future. It was more of a farewell to the X-Men universe rather than an introducing Deadpool and Wolverine to the
Yeah, it was part of it.
MCU.
It wasn't part of it. It was
But
part of it.
there was one thing that we didn't miss, and I didn't think of it till after, is I do think that it was setting up something for Marvel's Secret Wars. And that
Yeah,
was
what's up?
when Deadpool was in the TVA and he was showing him all of the Marvel stuff. And he's like, Cap and all of that. And he's like, hey, why is Thor holding me on that screen in the
That's
bottom?
right.
And then throughout the rest of the movie, he kept mentioning, like, there were times
I
where it was
thought
like
we
he
were
was
going to see that scene. I thought we were going to see that scene, but we didn't. You're
right.
right. Yeah.
And he kept, and remember, he kept like waking up too. There was like parts in the movie where it would transition to him. And he'd be like, "Oh, Thor!" Right? And it was like, and so like like I said, it kind of get the impression that he was dreaming. And as was stated by Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, dreams are just windows into our parallel lives from across the multiverse. So I think all of that stuff with Thor and Deadpool and him calling himself the Marvel Jesus and all, I bet you in Secret Wars, we're going to see that scene where Deadpool is dying in Thor's arms. And who knows, maybe Deadpool is the one that saves the Marvel Universe and dies. Because Ryan Reynolds ain't going to play Deadpool forever, right? So
Yeah.
I think if I had to guess and speculate, like that was the hint. That's the little thread of what we're going to see in the future. And I think maybe literally Deadpool could actually be the Marvel Jesus, and he will die at the end of Secret Wars, and then we will get the new Deadpool when the Marvel's MCU is reborn afterwards. But we will see.
Good guess. Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope we see. It looked like a great scene. That'd
Right?
be cool. All right.
Okay.
Nuance.
No.
Oh,
One more thing. One more thing. Sorry. I just remembered.
yeah.
There was one other thing very quickly. Have you heard the idea? Ryan Reynolds had 3 pitches for what the story of Deadpool Wolverine was. One of them was what we got. Have you heard what his other 2 pitches were?
I have not.
One pitch was just him and Wolverine going. It would be an MCU greatest hits. It would be them going around from all the different battles and moments from all the Marvel movies that we've already seen. The other pitch, this is the insane one, which I hope we get a better description of someday. But it was just a 2-sentence description. It was basically his pitch for Deadpool 3 was a shot-for-shot remake of Thor: The Dark World until the end of the second act with Deadpool as Thor rather than Chris Hemsworth.
Okay.
So I would like more elaboration on how that worked, but that just sounds crazy. That was
Yeah,
one of the fucking ideas
I'm
that he
guessing.
pitched.
I'm guessing there's no shortage of executives that said, "Nope, we're not doing that."
Right? But yeah, okay, I'm
All
done. I
right.
got nothing else. I'm good.
All right, yeah, thanks for the share. Well, like I said, Ryan Reynolds is definitely a mad genius in his own right, and yeah, it was a great movie. And again, Hugh Jackman, I thought did great. And it sounds like Disney and all their dudes did a good job organizing their Comic Con. So good for them. That's I think they did their job. It sounds like I'm now more excited for the MCU. And cool, yeah. So thanks again for sharing to us. And yeah, that's it for tonight. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. So, Newhouse, have a good night.
You too, my friend. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night. And may the Force be with you. And may Marvel Jesus be show you the light.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.